Welcome to Tarek's Community Podcast with another episode, and I'm proud to join another special guest, Rob Antill, who has a new project called Feltham in the Bloom. I'm excited to introduce this new project and learn more because I'm into gardening myself. So, Rob, nice to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How are you today?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm bearing up under lockdown. I think the key thing is we all got to stay cheerful and pretend that this is normal.
So, I hear that you're into planting quite a lot.
Yeah, what happened initially, it started off, I was helping run a garden club at my granddaughter's little infant school. And then when she moved up to primary, I moved up as well and started a garden club there at Victoria Junior School in Feltham. And since then, for about 6 or 7 years now, I've been working with little kids, helping them to learn about growing stuff from starting from seeds and how to look after plants as they grow. And it's been really, really useful to see the way they learn so much about nature, about the science of things, and about life, which is good. So that's kept me going. And last year, in 2019, other people were so impressed by what the kids were doing because we were planting flowers at the front of the school and veggies at the back. And we then cheated and went outside into the public spaces outside the school where we thought they weren't being looked after enough. And we took over planting out there. And people said, this is great. We love this. It makes such a difference. So we said, okay, well, let's make it wider. And we launched Feltham in Bloom as it's part of a London-wide competition. London in Bloom, obviously. And we got judges to come and they had a look at what we were doing in the school, and other businesses in Feltham pitched in and spent quite a bit of money putting plants into places that before had been bare. And we've got other active groups in the area too who are looking after the ponds and the village green. And when the judges came, even though at that time Feltham was a bomb site because the whole heart of the town was being ripped up for roadworks and bridge works, the judges turned a blind eye to that, and they gave us a bronze award, which was a really good result for a first entry. But now we've got to think differently because we're in a different reality, and we can't go out now with the kids. The kids are not at school. The kids are 99% at home with their families, and we can't get a group of volunteers together to come down and dig a patch and plant some flowers or do some weeding because everybody is meant to be in lockdown. So for that reason, we had to rethink and work out what we were going to do next.
Yeah, it must be a nice thing to do for the environment to take care of the plants as well. The other thing I wanted to ask you, what is Feltham in Bloom?
Well, it's
Yeah,
how we identify ourselves as being part of what's a nationwide drive to get people to love the place they live. That's the two phrases that I think are key. Love the place you live and make your place nice. So we're working on that and trying to get people to accept the idea that if they put a little bit of effort into growing things, whether that's flowers or shrubs or trees or veggies, that effort, as well as making them feel good while they're doing it, makes everybody who goes past feel good as well. A number of comments we used to get from people saying, oh, it's made such a difference. I enjoy walking down this path now. And that's what we were aiming to do. But now, as I said, we can't carry on with that as normal. And so we've come up with a new plan. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. Our new plan is a very nice phrase someone coined the other day: take the outside inside. What we're thinking of doing is helping people who are compulsorily locked into their houses as much as possible, help those people to start growing things in their own homes. Now, some people are fancy and lucky and they've got a garden. They might have a balcony. They might have a patio. Whatever they've got, the key thing is somewhere, if they can find the space to start to grow, what we want to do at Feltham in Bloom is help them get the stuff they need to get started. So we're going to try to source a good supply of things like seeds, baby plants, different types of soil. Maybe if we need it, we'll try to find pots, containers for people to use. And we'll also unearth as much advice as we can and make links available so that people can click on a link on a website or on a portal somewhere, and it will immediately open up for them masses of useful advice from experts like the Royal Horticultural Society or local garden centres, or even just advice from people like me who've been growing stuff for a long time and seen what works and very often what doesn't work. So that's the plan. We give people seeds, we give them plants, we give them materials, we give them advice, and they can then start to grow. Now, maybe what they do is they get a yogurt pot, punch a couple of holes in the bottom, fill it with dirt if they've got any access to dirt, or we'll see if we can get them some compost, and then plant a couple of little seeds into the top of that pot, and then stand that yogurt pot on the windowsill in another little plastic thing, like say a humus packet, plastic bowl with no hole in. And that means that they can water the pot, the yogurt pot, and it won't run all over the kitchen. It'll be trapped in the little humus pot underneath. Within a couple of days, maybe a week, they will start to see signs of new life. And those seeds that they've put there under the ground will start to push up little green shoots. And if you've got kids at home, this is going to be such a fabulous thing for them to take part in. I've done lots of visits to fetes and to schools and to child-minding groups. And the kids line up to come and to put their little set of seeds into a pot and take it home with them. Kids love doing it. And the good thing about it is that it's something that can involve the whole family. Now, if you've got adults and children all forcibly stuck together, instead of tantrums and fights and stress and anxiety, you can have fun planting this stuff. And when the kids see it, and for that matter, when the adults see it popping up, they're not going to believe it. They're going to say, wow, look what we've done. And if they plant stuff that they like, for instance, a very, very easy thing is cress. Now, it sort of sounds a little bit like health foody stuff, but cress is a really good thing to start with because the seeds are minuscule. They're so tiny, you can barely see them. But all you need to do is get a little plastic tray, put some cotton wool in the bottom if you haven't got any soil, wet it, and then when it's wet, just sprinkle these seeds over the top and put that container on the windowsill, end of your planting day. Within a week, they will start to put up little tiny shoots, hundreds of them, and you'll have a little sea of green cress leaves, and they will grow to an inch, inch and a half high. And what you can do then, it sounds a little bit cruel, I don't want to be heartless, but you can go along with a pair of scissors and give them a short back and sides. Just trim the top leaves off one end of your tray and sprinkle that into a sandwich or on top of a salad. And it is gorgeous. You're eating totally fresh, healthy, organically grown, free veg, free salad. So that's a good thing to start with, but you can plant all kinds of stuff like that in the house. If you've got a patio or a balcony or a garden, you can aim bigger. You can start planting proper full-size veg. You can plant a pumpkin. You can plant tomatoes. They're so easy to grow. You can plant lettuces and rocket. They're really fast, and you'll be eating the crop within 3 weeks of starting. So that's what we want to do. We want everybody to get excited about making their own food at home by growing it themselves.
What I also wanted to ask you, that's really good to hear. Do you think it will impact lots of people, like children, families?
Well, yeah, I I don't actually live in Feltham. I shouldn't say that because people will start throwing stones at me. But I I go to Feltham regularly because that's where my granddaughter and her mum live. And I've been going there, as I say, for 6 or 7 years. And the thing that really pains me is the amount of the population there that are living in high-rise blocks. Now, high-rise blocks have is sort of like a two-edged sword. It's a great way of providing large amounts of accommodation on a small footprint. In a country like Britain, where we don't have a lot of land space, and back in the 50s and 60s, people thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. Well, we've had a rethink since then about whether putting people high up into the air is a good way for them to live. And what worries me a little bit now is that under lockdown, it's actually exaggerating, multiplying the difficulties of living in high rise, or anyone living in a flat who doesn't have access to the outside world, who can't go out and dig a little hole in the ground and put something in it. Now, those people are in a situation of great stress at the moment because they're frightened about the virus. They have to take so many extra precautions about what they breathe and what they touch and washing their hands and not going out except for essentials. And so you've got that added to the fact that the normal routine of mum, dad, and the kids getting up in the morning, and the adults go off to work and the kids go off to school, wrong, finished, doesn't happen anymore. Those kids are there with the parents in that flat. Maybe it's really tiny. Maybe it's not an ideal size in terms of the number of rooms for the number of people. But this is an opportunity to give them something that they can do other than watching YouTube or doing video exercise classes. This is something physical, practical, realistic that they can all take part in. And the upshot is at the end, there's a payoff because they will grow stuff that they can eat. Or, I don't want to sound heretical, but they can even try growing some flowers. Some flowers you can eat, but flowers also have a positive psychological effect. People enjoy looking at flowers. We are hardwired as human beings to appreciate, to enjoy beauty in nature. And if you're living within four walls and you're getting a bit stressed with the lockdown and camp fever, then how nice to be able to go into a room and see a pot there with a beautiful flower just opening. It's just a great emotional relief. So that's, I think the idea of growing at home will have a massive impact for those people who are able to take part in this kind of a project.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you also, how do you feel, like, how do you think it has inspired, like, what has inspired you to do this?
Well, I've told you really. I've been working with kids growing stuff for years, and I see how positive the effect is for them, and I see the knock-on effect that I'm working with kids who are 7, 8, 9 years old, and adults in their 80s, their 70s, their 90s, their 120s going past the school stop and say, "Oh, I'd love that. I used to have one of those in my garden," or "I enjoy coming this way now when I'm walking to work or walking to the health club." It's just a good feeling, and at the moment we're desperately short of things to make people feel good, and this is such an easy way to do it. I mean, growing stuff is easy as falling off a log, so to speak.
Yeah, that's really good. I want to share this experience. I used to do work experience at a gardening project, and I used to plant a lot of stuff. The what I planted is sunflowers. Um, I might carry it on in the future.
I hope you do. Go for it.
What advice would you give me?
I would say, I would say sunflowers are a great start. Actually, that's interesting because we do that a lot, or we used to do it a lot with the kids in the garden club at the school, because sunflowers are a doddle. Two things: the seeds are big and easy to see, and so planting them is not difficult. And the second thing is they grow whether you want them to or not. They are the most grow happy plant you can imagine. The other thing is that, unlike the cress I was talking about on the windowsill, which grows a matter of a few centimeters, some of these sunflower seeds, depending upon the type, can grow 2 meters tall. So you get bragging rights by being able to show people how big yours is compared to theirs. So sunflowers are a great idea, but any kind of plant or veggie, if people have got the good fortune to have a small garden, I would say also, if there's the space, look at the idea of putting in a tree. We put an apple tree in our back garden's the size of a second-class postage stamp. But we put an apple tree in regardless, because it was very tiny at the time. It's now so big, it overhangs our fences on all 3 sides. It goes into the neighbour, out into the lane, and across into the back car park. But as I'm talking to you now, it is totally, totally ablaze with beautiful white and pink apple blossom. And every year, we end up giving buckets full of apples away to all our neighbours, whether they like apples or not. But the point I'm making is anybody, even in a very small space, can plant a fruit tree, and you get a reward. It's not immediate. This was planted probably 30 years ago, so I'm not suggesting that you've got to wait that long. But if you've got a bit of outside space, bung a fruit tree in. Set a little bit aside to grow some of the veggies that you like to eat. It's ironic, because at the schools, both of the schools that I have been working with recently, if I'd say to the kids, what would you like to plant? And we'd have a set of different packets of seeds, they would always go for Brussels sprouts. And I used to be amazed, because the common wisdom is that everybody hates Brussels sprouts. And yet the kids would be queuing up to put Brussels sprouts in. And we grew them very successfully, always. They are a really, really good crop to grow. And they keep on going. In fact, some of our Brussels sprouts we left in more or less by accident, and they came back again the next year. So there's a success story if you want to plant something and then find people you can give it away to.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you, if people wanted to find out more.
Okay, that's now we're coming to the crunch. One of the things that I was really hoping to do, talking to you today, is to put out a distress call, a call for help, a plea. At the moment, because of lockdown, Feltham in Bloom is 3 or 4 individual people in very separate parts of London. And what we need are people who are skilled in IT, who could help us to set up that thing I was talking about, that website or portal or digital space where we can advertise to people what this service is that we are hoping to offer, that where people can go and say, okay, I live in a flat, I have a small balcony, and I could set aside probably 2 meters by half a meter to grow stuff. What can I do? And we would then, from that portal, be able to reply to them and say, okay, here are some alternatives. You could put a row of small pots along there and grow a variety of veggies and flowers. Or you could build from, say, from an old pallet, you could build a raised bed that is one structure along the whole of that length by the outside wall of the balcony. And we'll help you in advice about how to make it suitable for planting in. But those IT people we're desperate for. People who are prepared to step up and show us literally how to get this information out to people. And the second thing we need people who can help us to gather the materials. It's a telephone and an email and a WhatsApp job to fire off requests to garden centers, to nurseries, to plant growers, and say, okay, what can you supply at the moment, and how much would it cost to get it to us? And then, just because I've raised the point of cost, we've got a little bit of money left over that we would have used for planting stuff outside this year. We want to use that money instead to finance buying in the stuff that's needed. So if someone can afford to pay for the seeds from a garden centre, fine. But if they can't, then Feltham in Bloom will put up the money just to make sure that they can still get the access to this wonderful experience of growing at home. So that's what we need. We need IT people. We need volunteers to man the phone. And we're going to need some clever people who are able to take the final step, which is to get these seeds and plants and things and find a way to distribute them so that people can have them at home. Now, one suggestion may be food banks and people who are doing free meals during this lockdown. Maybe we could include some of our grow at home stuff with their food packages. So that would be one way of getting it home. Maybe we could do a kind of click and collect that if you live in a high rise and it's hard for stuff to be delivered to you on the 15th floor, then on the day that you go out for your essential shopping.
Hi, Rob. Rob, we only have 6 minutes left.
Yeah, okay.
To you.
All right.
So lastly, just a quick one. In one word, how would you encourage them to do something with planting?
Quickly. That was one word. No, I shouldn't. I would say that people will enjoy doing it, they'll benefit from the results, and it will help to make this lockdown time a happy experience. End of story.
Yeah, thank you for joining me today, Rob. This is Tarek's podcast. I'm your host, Tarek Mrad, and goodbye.
Goodbye, Tarek.